Greetings and salutations, discerning duelists of the world, and welcome to GoldenNova's Parlor of Prodigious Pastimes. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game with a long and storied history, with enough tales and characters to fill the shelves of the most extravagant of libraries 100 times over. Duelists young and old experience the magic of shuffling up a deck of cards every day, calling upon a wide variety of unique and eccentric creatures, from the frightening Frightfurs to the magnificent Melodious. In fact, it's such a beloved experience that I think it's time for Duel Monsters to take the next step. Theme parks. Disney's got them coming out the wazoo, Universal Studios got its fair share, they've even got Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck walking around Six Flags for crying out loud. So come one, come all, because it's time for Kazuki Takahashi's legacy to join them in the pantheon of happiest places on Earth. We've got rides and shows to thrill and chill ya, and you won't ever be far from your favorite game. Heck, you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home to do it. I'll take you on a tour myself. Grab your ticket and keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because it's time to explore the Amazement Precious Park.
But, not in that voice. I don't think I can keep that up the whole time. Anyway, before we continue, a quick reminder to please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. We're on the road to 5,000 subs and you can help make it happen. I've got a very special explained video I want to do for that particular milestone, but I'll save the details for when we get to 3,000. We also have a Discord where we have such roles as Occasionally Melvin and Common Writer Weeb, and a Twitter where you can stay up to date on channel news and my bad takes. Thank you for your patience, and now, back to the video. So what's the deal with Amazements? Well, their mechanics are as whimsical as they look. Primarily, the deck is made up of Amaze attraction normal traps, with the second day flipped upside down because that's their logo, and they've got to be as extra as possible about it. Each one also references a different archetype, with effects inspired by their source material. When activated, they can be equipped to your Amazement Monsters, or any of your opponent's monsters, and the effect of said trap changes depending on who owns the equipped monster. After all, just because we have all the fun rides, doesn't mean we can't invite our opponent to a few of them. It's the only neighborly thing to do. As such, we'll start by going over them. Cyclone Coaster comes to us from the Nephthys section of the park. When equipped to a monster, you can target a spell or trap your opponent controls, then send it and Coaster to the grave. And if it's equipped to your opponent's monster, you can add any Amazement monster from your deck to your hand, then Coaster is sent to the grave. Technically, for full flavor, these cards would be destroyed instead of being sent, but otherwise it's a pretty good reflection of the Nephthys theme, and having a modal MST/reinforcement of the army ain't too bad either, but don't think you can just coast on this card alone. Next is the spooky section of the park, where we find Horror House, inhabited by the playful spirits of Ghost Tricks. When equipped to your monster, you can target and negate an effect monster's effect until the end of the turn, and if it's equipped to an opponent's monster, you can flip it face down, which would effectively destroy Horror House. Honestly, this card is great. It's repeatable, quick effect negation that's not actually tied to a monster, so negating it won't actually get rid of one of your monsters, or it's just Book of Moon. Very ghost tricky of them. And trust me, we've got ways of recycling our yarded attractions, so it's not a huge loss if we have to use this effect. It's so good it's scary. But maybe you're looking to relive the nostalgia days of a meta gone by. Then look no further than the centerpiece of our Legend of the Six Samurai exhibit, Majestic Menage. When equipped to your monster, it gains 500 attack, and if the equipped monster would be destroyed, you can send Menage to the grave instead. And if it's equipped to an opponent's monster, it loses 500 attack for every attraction trap equipped to a monster. Now, these may not seem like the kinds of high-speed special summoning the high-tech high-end warriors were known for, but that's because this ride celebrates some lesser-known additions. The attack gain and protection comes from legendary Ebon Steed, while the debuff is likely from Temple of the Six. You could also attribute this to Xian's Castle of Mist because it specifically reduces by 500, but Temple of the Six's debuff can grow as you summon more samurai, just like how Menage's debuff grows as you equip more attractions. But either way, it's a cool card to give you an edge during the battle phase and gives you a great excuse to start horsing around. But hey, maybe you need something with a little more horsepower? Then look no further than Precious Park's On Rails Grand Prix Stadium, where you can find Rapid Racing. When equipped to your monster, you can target a card in either grave, change the battle position of the equipped monster, then shuffle the targeted card back into the deck. If equipped to an opponent's monster, you can increase that monster's level by 1, then change its battle position. Okay, this one is a bit more situational, but it still has its merits. The first effect is a kind of DD Crow, shuffling cards in your opponent's grave back into the deck to keep them from resolving pertinent effects, and it can let you be more aggressive with your attacks, then you can pump the brakes to keep your life points safe with a quick defense position switch. Alternatively, this can take your opponent's monsters out of the running for attacks, put them in a more vulnerable position to be attacked, and it can potentially mess up level-dependent setups like with Synchro and Xyz summoning. It's pretty cool, but not quite up to speed with the rest of the rides. We've got one more ride, and we've saved the best for... we've saved something for last. For those of you with, shall we say, unconventional tastes, we've got Wonder Wheel, imported directly from the Ojama country. When equipped to your monster during any main phase, you can tuck a card from your hand under your deck to draw a card, and if it's equipped to an opponent's monster, you can swap its attack and defense until the end of the turn. This makes for a pretty good utility ride, making your opponent's monsters easier to run over like with the aforementioned country, and fixing your hand using the power of Ojama... Pink. I have been told that a segment of my audience likes Ojama Pink, so I will keep my reservations to a minimum. Suffice it to say, it's a very well-rounded card. We also have one more trap that works like an attraction, but isn't one. Amazement Family Phase can only be equipped to an opponent's monster that's already equipped with an attraction trap card, but when you do, you take control of it, it gains 500 attack, it's treated as an Amazement monster, but its effects can't be activated. So, putting aside that this is a pretty cool snatch steal, the art here is fascinating. These look like face tattoos that you can buy once you're in the park, and I guess putting them on makes you part of the team. And there is an adorable assortment of merchandise to look through. There's little keychains of the main cast, Melfi plushies that need to exist in the real world, and they've got a Karibo one, a Bufo one, and a rather sinister looking Bufo. Oh well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about here. Now that we've seen the whole crew, let's get to know them a little better. Amazement Ambassador Bufo is a level 3 Earth Beast with 1600 attack and 900 defense. When normal summoned, you can target an attraction trap in your grave and a monster your opponent controls, then equip that trap to that monster. They also have a Tailor of the Fickle-like quick effect, letting you equip one of your Amazements on the field to another appropriate target. Bufo's gonna help later in the game, letting us recycle rides that we've already used, especially the ones that go to the grave after activation, like Coaster and House, and if you'd rather use their effects while equipped to one of your monsters, Bufo can get that arranged. They're pawfully helpful. Next is Amazement Attendant Comica, a level 4 light machine with 1400 attack and 1800 defense, and they have the same effect to move your attractions around as Bufo. Also, when they're normal summoned, you can set any attraction trap from your deck to the field. I'm not entirely sure why Comica is a machine, but it could mean that they're just a really convincing android, or just a regular human who really likes machines. If Quick Fix can do it, anyone can. It's also nice to have a turn 1 play that can set up an attraction for you to use later, and can keep the line moving on subsequent turns. I can't imagine running this deck, sans Comica. Our last monster is... Actually, I think safety fan and bureaucratic wunderkind Brian David Gilbert can announce this better than I can.
Ah, that dude's wearing a tight-fitting suit with a bunch of weird patches. That must be Arlecchino, the servant clown sometimes to two masters!
Thank you very much. And, yeah, I originally wanted to put this clip here because I thought it would be a funny connection to the whole Commedia dell'arte segment of that Unraveled video, but the more I looked into it, the more I found out that the Commedia dell'arte, basically an early form of Italian theater, may be a part of this theme's influences. We've already gone over Arlecchino, one of the character archetypes found in those kinds of plays, and Comica, well, it's in the name. And while Bufo doesn't have an exact connection, the opera Buffa is a form of opera inspired by Commedia dell'arte. Sorry, got a little off track there. Does that all count as lore? Anyway, this is Amazement Administrator Arlecchino, a level 7 dark psychic monster with 2600 attack and 2200 defense. If a trap card is activated, you can special summon Arlecchino from your hand, kind of like a giant multi-faker, but instead of summoning more Altergeists, it brings the fun. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster or monsters, you can target one of them and equip it with an attraction trap from your deck, but both of those last two effects are hard once per turns, so you can't go bonkers on showing your opponent all the best rides. Lastly, as a soft once per turn, Arlecchino can banish any number of attraction traps in your grave, then you get to target that many cards your opponent controls and destroy them. The wonders of the park are nice, but we can't stay here forever. We need to end things with a bang, and this eccentric entertainer is how we'll do it. And they've got little Karibo balloons, what more could you ask for? The last group of cards we need to talk about are the support spells, and what better place to start than with a map? Amazement Precious Park is a field spell that lets you activate one attraction trap during your main phase the turn it's set, which combos very well with Kamika. Also, during any end phase, you can send one attraction trap equipped to a monster to the grave, then target any attraction trap in your grave or that's banished, and set it to the field. Hey, sometimes you like a ride so much, you want to get back in line and do it all over again. I do like that it helps speed up your trap cards, something that is sorely needed, and the ability to swap out attractions will keep your best ones in circulation. It may go without saying, but this card is very precious. Amazement Special Show is a quick play spell you can activate if your opponent activates a card or effect that targets any number of your Amazement monsters you control. On resolution, you target any Amazement you control, return it to the hand, then you can special summon one Amazement monster from your hand. This is... well... it's not very good, as far as I can tell. All your effects trigger on normal summon, so Special Show won't grant you any extra advantage. It can certainly help you dodge targeted effects, but the only other thing it can possibly do is reset Bufo and Kamika while getting Arlecchino onto the board, and that seems pretty underwhelming. The card art is adorable, to be sure, but that's about the only thing special about it. The last card is Amazing Time Ticket, a quick play spell that costs 800 life points to activate and has a different effect depending on whose turn it is. On your turn, you add any Amazement card from your deck to your hand. This includes all the monsters, all the spells, and Amazement Family Face, and during your opponent's turn, you can set one attraction trap from your deck, and it can be activated that turn. You can only activate one ticket per turn, but that's not too bad since you can just activate one on your opponent's turn as well. This might as well just be 3 more copies of any card in your theme with how broad the search is, and as Amazement's roster grows, this card will just keep getting better and better. It'll be the best 800 life points you've ever paid for a ticket. Okay, so that's all of our cards, but what can we do with them? Well, despite the artwork, our game plan is neither quick nor flashy. We're going to be using attraction traps to control the field, putting our opponent on the back foot while advancing our own game plan. Then we'll use Arlecchino to punch a hole in our opponent's defenses and bring things home for the big finale. But what can we use to help accomplish this? Well, this is where things get rough. The only other person that I've seen tackle this theme is MBT, cutting the deck with trap tricks as they both have strong trap synergy. And while the deck is very, very good, it feels less like an Amazement deck that runs trap tricks to cover its weak points, and more like a trap tricks deck that runs the bare minimum Amazement cards to give them proactive plays. Unfortunately though, we don't have much of an option. Like they said, Altergeist and Eldritch both put us under restrictions that Amazement can't deal with. So for now, it's trap tricks, pure, and Layer of Darkness. That's right, the deck that runs a lot of normal traps cannot afford to pass this opportunity by. While it does mean not running our field spell quite as much, we can now use cards like Lilith that can search our attractions out with the greatest of ease. And it even gives our opponent tokens just in case they refuse to put monsters on board that we can equip our attractions to. It also gives us a ton of trap options that work insanely well, especially when we get to tribute our opponent's monsters for them. And while we're on the subject, let's go over some Dark Fiends with trap synergies. Proofiness, the Tactical Trapper, can banish a card from your deck on summon, and can banish a trap from either player's grave once per turn, each effect boosting their level by 1. Then, if they're destroyed by your opponent, you can set one of your banished trap cards to the field. This can be used as another way to search out traps from your deck that you can get back with Precious Park, and if you don't have access to that field spell, Proofiness can grab it for you once they've retired. We can also play Dark Eye Nightmare. You can keep it safe from battle destruction once per turn by banishing a trap from your grave, but the real draw is its ignition effect. You can banish up to 3 traps from your grave, then if you banished 1, you draw a card, then place a card from your hand on top of your deck. If you banished 2 cards, you get to draw a card, and if you banished 3, you draw 2 cards and discard 1, which can be some pretty sweet card advantage. The downside is that, yeah, you are banishing a bunch of cards that you should be using for Arlecchino, but the plus side is if you run a bunch of generic traps, you can banish those instead, and banish the attractions only when you need to. As for a silly tech card, I think I have something that matches the whimsy of this cacophonous carnival. Magical Hats! Help keep one of your Amazement monsters safe while also loading up your grave with 2 attractions to use for Arlecchino's effect. You can even activate magical hats to summon Arlecchino, and wouldn't that just be the most magical thing you could do? The top hat, top dog of the circus, arriving with even more giant top hats? It's pretty magical. And that's all I've got to say on Amazement. They're not very incredible now, per se, but they're filling out this design space that I feel has room for some really powerful, or at least really interesting growth, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. But now, I want to hear from all of you. Do you think that the show must go on despite the critics, or will this be getting a bad review in tomorrow's paper? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video around. It really does a lot to help me out. And if you want to hear me talk about another deck with bright colors and even brighter personalities, click this card here for a video all about the Live Evil Twins. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.